Before we can design our report for printing on the I-9 employment eligibility document, we need to gather the data that we want to print. In this case, we're going to make a simple form that will allow our users to select the employee that they are interested in, and we'll hook it into a query that will populate the report. We'll start by creating a new blank form in Design View by going to the Create tab and choosing Form Design. I'm going to use a combo box that the user can interact with, so I'll grab one from the Controls group, and I'll click down here to add one. I'm going to cancel out of the combo box wizard and build the query manually. We'll go into the Data tab. In the row source, I'll click on the Build button. From this query, we're going to pull information from our employees table. I'll double-click on it, and then close the Show Table window. Now I want to add in the employee ID so that I make sure that I select a specific employee. Then I want this list to appear alphabetically based off of their last name. So I'll add the last name field here, and come down to Sort, and I'll choose Sort Ascending. Finally, I want to be able to see the full name of the employee, including the first and last name together in a single row. We can do that with a small formula. On this third column, I'll right-click and say Zoom. Let me go ahead and change this font a little bit. I'll make it a little bigger. And now we can just start typing in the formula. The name of the column is going to be full name. So I'll go ahead and type in the word full name followed by a colon. And the formula is going to be this. We're going to type in a square bracket. We're going to make reference to the first name field from the data table, which we can see over here. It's first. I'm going to join that to a space character by typing in an ampersand or the concatenate symbol, a double quotation mark, a space, another double quotation mark, and another ampersand. And then we're going to join all of that to the last name field from the employees table. So we can wrap a square bracket around that and type in last. Close the square bracket and say OK. Now I have a column that's calculating the full name by combining the first name to a space to the last name. We can go ahead and run the query to see the results. So this is what we want to see in that combo box. Let's go ahead and close this down. I'll go over here to the far right, and we'll save our changes. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit wider. And I'm going to change this label here. I'm going to move it up here to the top by using the handle in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to double-click a couple of times to select it. And I'm going to type in Select an Employee. Let's go ahead and test this out. I'll switch to my view to Form View. And in the drop-down list, I only see the employee ID numbers. I don't see the full name that I want to see. So let's go ahead and fix this. I'll go into the Design View. I'll select the combo box. On the Data tab over here, we want to leave the bound column to number 1. That's the first column from the query. In order to make sure that we're only selecting a specific employee, we want to make sure that we're linking this to the primary key of that table, which is that ID column, which again is column number 1 from our query. But on the Format tab over here, we have this column count. I need to change this to 3 because the query we made actually had 3 columns. The line below, though, this column widths, this is how we control what's viewable to our end user. I'm going to type in a 0, a semicolon, a 0, a semicolon, and a 1. That'll essentially hide the first 2 columns from our query. That's the employee ID and the last name field. Finally, we need to name this combo box so we can make reference to it. Let's go ahead and go to the other tab, and we'll give it a name of CBO Employee. Let's go ahead and save our form now. I'll press Control S or this disk icon on the Quick Access toolbar, and we'll type in I-9. All right, let's test out the combo box. And we come over here, and sure enough, now we're seeing the full name of our employee. Now that we can select an employee from a list here, let's build a quick query to handle this information. I'll go to the Create tab, Query Design. We'll add in our employees table and close the Show Table window. Next, I want to add all of the fields from the employees table. And a shortcut for that is to double-click on this asterisk at the top. Next, I need a field that's going to match to the data that we select in the I-9 form we just built. I'm going to double-click on Employee ID to add that column over here as well. Then we just need to specify the criteria that the only record that we're interested in is the one that we selected in the combo box. I'll right-click on the criteria row below Employee ID and choose Build. Now we can go into our forms. We'll go into Loaded Form since it's open right now, the I-9 form, and I'll double-click on CBO Employee. That'll add the reference to the form we just created. We'll go ahead and say OK, and we'll go ahead and close the query and save changes. I'm going to go ahead and call this query I-9 as well. Now I can make a selection here. I'll go ahead and choose Thomas Allen from the form, and then I'll go ahead and open up my I-9 query, and we should only see one record here, Thomas Allen. If we close the query, make a different selection, Sonia Alvarado, and I'll double-click on Queries again, and we see her record. So now we can see that this query is correctly processing the data coming out of the form. So that gets us the first part of our workflow. The user will select a name from the drop-down list, and that will feed into the query. The query returns just a single record of information, which will then get formatted on the report. We'll finish off this little project in the next movie.